Welcome back, traders, to today's video on the NASDAQ 100. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Okay, if you are an existing channel member or somebody that visits the channel all the time, thank you again for coming back to watch today's analysis. I appreciate you all, and I thank you all for your support, for coming over and supporting. Right now, with that said and done, today we're going to be talking about the NASDAQ 100. Once we've gone over the details of the NASDAQ 100, we will be looking at Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Tesla. Okay, this will give us a roundup idea as to what to expect moving forward. Now, with that said and done, today, Monday, is actually a bank holiday in the UK, so there's a street party going on. Well, not near me, but some distance away, right? So today's an amazing day. The weather's great, everything's fantastic. So the idea is I want to bring you the best possible analysis possible, okay, to not only to help myself but to also to help you as well. The work that I do, I strongly recommend you double check everything that I say to you in regards to how I'm analyzing the market, as well as if you decide to take my ideas forward, that make sure that you've back tested them to make sure that it all makes sense. Reason being is that I'm not putting myself forward as some type of financial expert. I'm learning this just like you guys watching are learning it. The only difference between me and you is that I'm putting my thought process on YouTube for you guys to review. Okay, so with that said and done, we're going to get straight into it. Now, last week Friday, okay, I had some free time on my hands, so I did a fair bit of videos. I think I did 3 videos on that day, right? And one of the videos that I did was on the NASDAQ. Okay, now that was just before the Fed chair spoke about whatever he was going to talk about, and that gave us this parabolic move to the upside. These were the levels that I had marked out as potential levels of interest if price closes above them. And if you go to the hour, we should have a rough idea as to see how fast that was. So just after the recording, okay, we had this parabolic move to the upside. Like, it really pushed all the way up, right? So what we're going to do here, before we look at what's going on in this area over here, we want to see how quick this was and if there was any opportunity where we could have caught this, right? Because this was a strong parabolic push to the upside. Okay, it did not play about at all. So we're going to go into the 15-minute, and 15 minutes is looking like it's just a straight bar all the way up. Okay, so let's go into the 5-minute. Okay, with the 5-minute, there was some type of hope. There was hope, right? But bottom line is you probably would have caught this one right here, which would have been 23.41.8.2, right? You would have caught that. That is if you were actively trying to get in on the NAS. So now, as it stands, let's go back to the day. I might actually come back to a lower time frame again. So as it stands right now, okay, we have a consolidation going on with today's candle. Okay, so today's candle is not that strong, but we do have some type of consolidation going on up there. So we're going to jump into the hour, just because I don't know why I went from the 5-minute back to the day. I should have stayed on the hour, right? So as we can see, we've got some type of a consolidation on the upside of this trend line. Okay, and as we can see, like how it is hugging the trend line. Okay, this is why I draw the trend lines in the way that I do. This is why I do it in this particular way, because I've worked out that it actually works. It actually works, and it's a lot more accurate than it normally would be if I did it any other way. So let me just go back into the day, because that's where I actually derived the trend line from. Make sure that it is looking smooth. Yeah, it's looking perfect. So let's go back to the hour. Okay, so as it stands right now, I'm just trying to work out what's the best view to be in, a day or the 1 hour. Let's go to the 1 hour. Let's go to the day, actually. Sorry guys for all this little, kerfuffle. Apologies. Okay, so okay, much better. Or maybe like this. Just do like this. Okay, so right now, as we can see, we've got price hugging the trend line right now. Okay, these two levels that I've marked out earlier are no longer relevant, just because the event that we was waiting for has passed. That was last week, so we don't need that anymore, so we're just going to get rid of that. Okay, what we do know about what's going on in this area right now is, first things first, we are aware of this FVG in this area. Okay, now this is a bearish FVG. It's a bearish one, right? Price is currently in there right now, and you could say, okay, you want to see if price closes below this FVG before you decide if you're going to ride market downwards, and that there is a fair assessment, okay, if that's what you want to do. But me personally, I would say if you're able to get volume profile on your chart, okay, you're better off working with that than the FVG. But I know some of you guys don't have volume profile on your chart, so the best thing that we can do is use FVGs and order blocks, right? So, but however, because obviously I've kept my entire chart to one color only, or one baseline color, okay, it makes it a little bit difficult to spot all the blocks, and I tend not to use them so much, right? So the best thing that we can do right now is use the volume profile to assist with the process. That's the best I can come up with right now in terms of how best to actually help you all, right? And help myself as well. That's important. So what we have right here is that we have a FVG, not FVG, we have a low volume node in this area right here, okay, which is currently sitting in the volume area high, and price is now moving away from that, okay. Price is now moving away from that. So if you jump into the 1 hour, okay, we can see where it would have been a good idea to hop in with a sell, and this is what we can see now. Price is currently moving downwards, right? Now just below that, if I went back up to the day, not only do we have this low volume node area in this area over here, okay, but we also have another low volume node area right here as well, okay. So let's highlight that as well, so that at least we can keep track of where everything is. Okay, now this low volume node, if price is going to produce an FVG in this area according to this bullish candle that we got on a Friday, this level right here is going to be the most likeliest place for us to see a bounce, okay? So that level in question, that would be, so on the high side we're looking at 23.35, 7.5, and on the low side we're looking at 23.308.6. okay, so basically the same sort of move that happened in this area over here is the same thing that we could see take place in this area over here, right? So hence why I'm pointing it out to your attention. So with that said and done, what is my overall bias in regards to the NASDAQ right now? Well, my bias would be that of a bullish sentiment on the NAS 100. I'm expecting it to continue its push to the upside. And because I've said that, what we're going to do is we're going to bring on other additional assets, okay? So this is where we bring on Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Tesla, and Meta. And what that would do is that will either confirm or not confirm the concept as to my thoughts that price is going to be pushing upwards, right? It will confirm that for us. So let me change the colors of this so we know which one stands for what. So a break above the blue line means price is going up. A break below the red line means price is coming down, right? So with that said, we're just going to split the screen in two. Yeah, we keep it like that for now. That actually is a NASDAQ component, and as we can see, that's maintaining itself. MicroStrategy, that was in yesterday's video where we talked about Bitcoin. Funny enough, not many of you guys have gone over to check out that video. That video is really insightful. So if you haven't, go take a quick look. Just go take a quick look, a sneaky peek. Okay, so right now we're in the pre-market era where market hasn't opened yet. So market will be opening in a few hours from now, roughly around 2:30 in the afternoon GMT. Okay, 2:30. So as it stands, all of this stuff here is relatively static in terms of what we expecting to happen and not happen, which is a really good time to kind of like analyze what could potentially take place when market opens. So as it stands right now, this is what market is doing, right? And we're working this off the day, right? Working this off the day. So what we have is price moved away. So on the Friday, so between the Thursday and the Friday of last week, price moved away from the low volume node area. It didn't actually go into it, but it went close enough, okay, where it's pushed away, and that level in question was 223.19. okay, so it's begun to kind of move away from that. All right, now this is an early bird assessment into all of this, but you could kind of say that this area over here is some type of a descending channel. Okay, you could kind of say that. So let's go into the 1 hour real quick and let's see what we can get from that. Okay, so in a way we can say that, it will make sense for us to say that, and we wouldn't be out of pocket for doing so. Okay, so say I wanted to line this up symmetrically, right? I wanted to keep this as symmetrical as possible. So what I want to do in this area right here is I want to make sure that this low area is locked in, and I want to make sure this high area here is locked in. I don't really need this area over here to reach this bottom side of this trend. What I do need is to see what happens when market opens later on today, and we're looking at this on an hour. So if price flies all the way down and gets to around this level, which is in the low volume node area, then I would expect it to kind of to push up. So chances are most of the moves that we'll be looking for in Apple, we might not actually get today. We might actually get it tomorrow, especially if you're looking for buys to the upside. If you're not, then you're not, but if you are, then we kind of want to see what price is going to do in this low volume node area here. So let me jump back into the day. And let's see what we got going on in terms of how much sense it makes. Now when we actually look at this descending channel in a day, it doesn't really look right. It doesn't actually look right. Do you know what I think I would do is I'm going to get rid of this, right? Because I can make it look good on an hour, but it doesn't look good on a day, and it's looking good on the day is the most important thing for me, if that makes sense. So if it doesn't do that, then fair play. I will just leave that be. So with that said, this is what I will say. So right now, as it stands, NAS is looking bullish. Apple too is looking bullish, even though it's doing some form of a pullback, right? It's doing that. Now, because we haven't put in the descending channel, the best I can do is put in a level to say where it would be a good idea to think about entering in if it's pushing to the upside, right? And the level that I would put down would be 235.25, right? This level right here. If price closes above that, then I'm assuming it's going to keep pushing upwards, and that's going to be the vibe of market, right? That's what market will be doing. So what do I think of Apple when market opens at 2:30 in the afternoon? I expect it to come into the low volume node area and then possibly push all the way up. And I also need to adjust this trend line over here to cover this area right here. Okay, because this is now the new low. sorry, the new higher low. So it will make sense for me to put point A, point B. If it snaps between that and now and closes above that level, that makes this signal that much more stronger and that much better, okay, in my opinion. So with that said, we're going to jump on and take a look at Microsoft. Let's see what's going on with Microsoft. Okay, so Microsoft, it's overall, it's in an uptrend. So we kind of went over this on a Friday, and obviously market did what it did on a Friday, which was upon the news of when the Fed chair was speaking, it gave us this falling star over here. So it gave us this falling star today. Actually, no, tell a lie. So that was on a Thursday. So with the breaking of the Fed chair giving his speech, it kind of caused Microsoft to push all the way up, right? So it's pushed all the way up. It's come back down again. It is below a low volume node, okay? So if this is going to do any type of pullback, I'm expecting a retest. Actually, let me bring up the low volume node area, and let me just set this to 20, so at least things begin to pop a little bit. Let's make this 30. Okay. It was just so that I could definitely get the levels in place, right? So say for example, if I feel that market is going to be coming down, closing, I will expect price to move from wherever it is when it opens to kind of tap into this area, which would be 515.87, and then move away from this low volume node area. This will give me confidence to say that price indeed wants to come down. This will also give me the idea that price in this area actually also wants to come down, because you have to bear in mind when it comes to the NASDAQ, it's currently in an FVG at the moment, a bearish FVG, so it could definitely pull back down again. This particular stock, Microsoft, could tap into this area right here and then pull back. Apple is doing something a little bit different, so let me just get Apple back on again. This will give us a rough idea as to what everything is doing. And as we can see, Apple is thinking about pushing up. We just need it to close above this level right here. So as it stands, overall NASDAQ is bullish, right? I cannot stress that enough. But in terms of short-term movements, okay, Apple is saying that market is going to keep pushing up, right? Microsoft is saying that price might want to do some type of correction, pullback, right? So we got 1 for 1 at the moment in terms of what it is that I'm looking for. We got 1 for 1 at the moment. So the next thing we're going to look at now is going to be Amazon, right? So we're going to take a quick look at Amazon and we're going to see what's happening there. Okay, so same thing with yesterday. Upon the news breaking out, Amazon has blasted all the way through this low volume node area that I had marked out. Let me make this a little bit more pronounced so we can really see the levels in there. Okay, so Amazon basically blasted through this low volume node that I now need to expand a little bit. Okay, so when market opens today, at 2:30 in the afternoon, what we're waiting to see is where price opens from. So we could have a little situation where price will open up at 228.46, somewhere in that area, and then continue on its journey upwards. Okay, it would definitely support the sentiment that right now, what this current daily candle is doing on the NASDAQ may be creating a bullish FVG in this area right here. Okay, so the day hasn't ended, so we don't know. But what we do know is on the bearish side of, so that's if you're on the, that's if you look at the NASDAQ screen, this is where I am right now, right? We can see that we have a bearish FVG in this area right here. Okay, price has now gone down, tapped into the low volume node area. It's now pushing back up again. Okay, based on what we're looking at so far, so we have a number of the assets that we're looking at giving us conflicting data. So Apple saying it's going up, Microsoft is saying it's coming down. Whilst it's happening, there is a potential for an FVG, a bullish FVG, to be formed in this area. If the bullish FVG is formed in this area, and in my opinion, is going to be based on, or one of the components, a very small component, may I add, but it's one of the components, is Amazon moving from this location all the way up to the upside, right? It's pushing all the way up. Now, because Amazon makes that kind of a move, okay, I would expect tomorrow's daily candle to open anywhere somewhere around here. Sorry, I didn't even mean to do any of that. To open anywhere around here somewhere, let's say 23,403.8, and begin pushing upwards, which would mean that this FVG has been tapped into and price is moving to the upside, which will also mean that Microsoft, from where it is right now, if we go back into Microsoft, no, I didn't want to do that. So if we go back into Microsoft, okay, we would then see that it might actually blast all the way through this low volume node area and then do a retest somewhere up here. Okay, so these stocks that I'm bringing to your attention do not necessarily, okay, have to follow the NASDAQ to the letter. By understanding and analyzing those particular stocks, it can give us a rough idea as to why NASDAQ is behaving in the way that it's behaving, if that makes sense. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at right now is going to be Google. So we're going to have a look to see what's going on in the world of Google. Once again, we went over this on the Friday. We looked at it on the hour, okay, just because I didn't see any relevance in doing a full-on in-depth analysis like what I'm doing now. But it's, bottom line is, it was something to do, and I believe that it was good for us. It's good for all of us to watch some of the moves taking place in the hour. Okay, so it was great. So after doing that recording, okay, I mean, it was good because basically I did a recording on a Friday. So let me go back into the day on this real quick. Right, so what was the time here? Okay, so I did the recording somewhere around this area over here. Okay, now the funny thing is, right, the funny thing is, when the video came out, I don't know if anyone had the chance to actually go over and watch it, because I've looked at the views on that particular video and it wasn't watched that much, right? So chances are, guys, you guys were focused on something else. But I reckon that if you actually had gone and watched that, at the bare minimum, you would have caught all of this. You'd have caught all of that. You might have missed this one right here. So let me use this. So you could have missed this one right here. Okay, but as for all of these, I believe you would have got them. I believe you would have got them, right? If you had been watching the videos when I released them, right? But obviously it's not your fault. You've got to do what you've got to do. You know what I mean? Life must go on. So I just thought I'd just draw that to your attention. So as we can see here with Google, okay, so this is still pre-market. Market hasn't opened yet. It's going to be opening, like I said earlier, at 2:30 GMT. So when it does, only then we will know what it actually plans on doing. But based on what I'm looking at right now and based on current positioning of market, I would expect price to maybe come down to about this level right here, okay? And then once it gets to that level, the level that we're talking about is 202.41, give or take a couple pips here or there, right? So once it gets to that particular level, all right, this is where we're waiting to see if it's going to bounce or not. Now, if I go into the day, this is where we're really going to get some really good data, okay? So for example, it opens up at 230, the candle is bullish all the way down, makes its way down to this level, but doesn't go beyond that. That will basically tell me that from Tuesday, I might need to prepare, okay? And if I'm really good, right, it might be Wednesday that I really get the opportunity that I'm looking for, which is if either price is going to bounce from this level or break down from this level, right? So once market opens today, it is super important that we're able to see what direction it plans on flying off in. As it stands, based on what it is that I'm looking at right now, especially if I was to draw a trend line on the top side of what market is doing now, okay, I would be of the mindset that I'm just trying to, okay, this makes more sense. I will be of the mindset that it might do a push downwards to this low volume node area, or it was a low volume node. It's not no more. It is not anymore, right? So it may do a push. Oh, this is where it gets a bit messy. This is where it starts to get a little bit messy. Okay, so my recommendation would be this, right? And once I said this is, once again, this is only just an opinion, right? It's only just an opinion, okay? You got to do the work on that to make sure everything I'm telling you is making sense. This is what I think could actually happen when market opens at 2:30 today, right? I would expect price, I believe price might push all the way down today. So today it might be fully fledged bearish move all the way down to the downside. Once it gets to this level over here, this is where it gets interesting. If it closes under it, so we're looking at 196.73, it's fair to assume it is coming down, and you could look at taking sells. At the same time, what it could mean for the NAS is that the NAS might find itself somewhere down here. Bearing in mind that we're using all of these major stock components to kind of give us a rough idea as to what market is planning on doing, right? So we're using this just to help us get the kind of vibe that we're after, which is, what do you plan on doing? What are you going to do today? Do you know what I mean? So once we have that idea, once we know what market plans on doing and how it plans on doing it, this will give us the confidence and the confirmation to know what we should be looking for in regards to the behavior of NAS. I've already marked out a couple levels that I think is really important to the behavior of the NASDAQ, and those are these areas right here, right? These areas right here, and this one is where it's basically you just want to be, you just want a safe entry, right? The safest entry you can get, that will be around this zone right here. Let me actually put a label on that, right? Let me put a label on that. So we're looking at a close above 23,632.3. And by the way, you might be hearing knocking in the background. Once again, we've got workmen doing their stuff, so apologies in advance for that. I'm gonna throw some music on top of this video anyway, so hopefully that will drown it out, right? So with that said, we've looked at Google. We've got the general vibe as to what I would like to see happen when market opens today, right? And that is that going to push downwards. It might not even happen. So if that event doesn't happen, okay, and we get a close above the high of the Friday, which would be 208.56, then you could actually consider riding it all the way up, okay, at which point we should see some kind of change in the NASDAQ overall. All right, so now let's go into Tesla. Let's take a look to see what's going on there with good old Tesla. Okay, so like I said, on the Friday, right, on the Friday, a lot happened. I was actually shocked by how many views I got off that last video that I did, right, and I was like, okay, the people have spoken. What else can I say or do? The people have spoken, right? So this is what kind of happened on the Friday in regards to Tesla, right? So Friday, obviously, price moved all the way up, but based on the assessment that I did, okay, and a lot of the values that I had in this area, they've all changed now. So they've all changed. So the low volume node in itself, let me I'm gonna make this 30. Okay, so that's really gonna pop the low volume nodes out, and I'm going to say this is one giant low volume node area. It's two separate levels, but we're just gonna mark it all as one, right? And then we're just gonna get rid of this level right here, and then we just have just that. Okay, so what I'm gonna say is, so on the Wednesday was where we had price firmly in the low volume node area. On the Thursday, price was still in that low volume node area. On the Friday, at the making of the video, we could clearly see that price was in the low volume node area, okay, right? And then when the news broke at 3 p.m, that's when all this happened. That's when price took off. So let's go into the 1 hour to see if we could have got that move. Now on the 1 hour, we did not stand a chance. It just moved all the way up. So we're going to go to the 15-minute to see if he gave us an opportunity. And the only opportunity he gave us in the 15-minute was up here. So that would have been at 334.87. Okay, so that was the only opportunity the market gave us to enter in, and that would have been on the 15-minute after market opened. Right now we're looking at this on the 15-minute. So let's go to the 5 and see if we can get a much better deal. On the 5-minute, we got a better deal where we could have got it at 332.25. Let me go up here again. Yeah, so on the 5-minute is where we got the best deal as to how we could have got into Tesla. Okay, as it stands on the Friday, it closed very high. Price is building up in this area, okay, which kind of leads me to the mindset that we might be having some type of a pullback when market opens at 2:30 in the afternoon. That very well could happen, and we need to be mindful of the idea that price could do some type of pullback, and if it does, we need to see where it goes into, and if it goes into any of the areas that we're watching, i.e. the low volume nodes, there we can begin to plan our entry back into the market and ride it to the upside. Essentially, price has given us market has given us a discount, and we're not going to say no to it. We're going to take that discount and run with it. So we're going to wait and see what Tesla does when it opens up at 2:30 today. But as it stands, I am off the mindset, okay, that it is going to do a NASDAQ, which is going to start to push downwards. It might not come all the way down, and there is a higher probability it will create a bullish FVG in this area right here. And if it does create that bullish FVG in that area, we have a rough idea what to expect moving forward, which is continuation of the trend, basically meaning NASDAQ has a high probability of pushing up, and so does everything else, right? This is why this type of analysis is so important. So important, okay? So with that said and done, we're going to look at the final asset of today, and that is going to be Meta. So with Meta, once again, we're in pre-market. Market isn't open yet. It will be up and running in the next few hours, which means we can get ready, we can prepare. So in terms of market being in the low volume node, nothing has changed, okay? This gap in this area hasn't really been filled properly. So let me adjust this a little bit. Let me adjust this so hasn't really been filled properly, okay? And if we look here, we get a bit of a tell as to what market could do, because we have a low volume node right here. So the stage has been set for market to come into this zone area, just because this gap needs to be filled. So this gap right here needs to be filled. As a matter of fact, let me just draw that. So this gap needs to be filled, right? That gap needs to be filled. So market might do that upon its opening, which basically means that price will be dragged down to this zone right here, and we're looking at 708.05. Price finds itself in that zone. What we want to do is find out what it plans on doing. Does it plan on closing underneath, or does it plan on moving away? Which either way, we will have the signal that we're looking for, and we should be able to take the appropriate action. At the moment, everything in the NASDAQ is pointing upwards. I would expect price, when it comes into this area, the region of 708.80, round about this area right here, I would expect price to decide if it's going to go up or come down, but I believe it's going to go up, right? Everything on the NASDAQ is pointing upwards. Everything that we've looked at, even though in some of the stocks we've looked at, there is an immediate need for it to come down, overall, they're all pointing upwards, right? They're all pointing upwards. We're looking at it on a day, so a drawdown could take a couple of days before it corrects itself and starts moving in the direction that we want it to, which is up, right? So with that said and done, I'm expecting the same thing from the NASDAQ. From Meta, right? So based on what I've just explained to you all, this is my sentiment on the NASDAQ so far, okay? So I believe NASDAQ is going to be pushing up. All of the assets that I have looked at support that. Now, what's important for you to understand is that we're looking at all of this on the day, right? The daily candle, which basically means is some of the moves that we're waiting to take place doesn't necessarily have to happen today, and doesn't necessarily mean it's going to take place tomorrow either. It could take a good couple of days before we get to the levels that we're waiting to get to for it to do what we need it to do. So for example, if I was to go into the NASDAQ again real quick, right, just to give an idea, okay, it could play around in this zone for a couple of days, right? It could basically do something like this, right? It could just consolidate in this area for a good couple of days. It could just do this back into this area for a good couple of days before eventually it clears this zone right here, which is 2363.2.3, right? So a lot of the time when people are watching this channel, okay, it gives me a rough idea what type of trader they are, because if you're a swing trader, you understand this, right? And if you're a day trader or a 5-minute trader or a 15-minute trader, you're looking for moves right now, okay? Unfortunately, this is not what this channel is about. This channel, I'm trying to help everyone get money in their pocket, and I'm trying to get money in my pocket. It's not even trying, right? This is what we're actually doing, right? And out of all of the concepts that I have learned over my trading experience. Okay, there's only one concept that works, right? In my opinion, the 5-minute trading doesn't work. Can you make money? Yes, you can. Overall, will you be losing more? There's a high probability you will, right? 5-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute, 1 hour, okay, right? Chances are you're taking L's, right? There is a high, you could be winning, right? But if you are winning, you're a swing trader, right? Because you're looking for the moves on the upside, which basically means the moves you're waiting for, you might be waiting 3 weeks until you actually see the move you're waiting for before you're actually able to tap in, right? It doesn't come all the time like it does on the 5-minute or 10-minute, but then it doesn't swing around the place randomly either. It just sticks to the path that it's on for a good couple days. Like, you would collect minimum 100, 200 pips before you decide that, okay, yeah, maybe you've had enough, you want to jump out, right? So this is why this channel is set up in the way that it is, right? So if you are a swing trader, this channel is for you. If you're a day trader, a 1-minute trader, a 5-minute trader, then clearly this channel is not for you. Can it help you? Yes, it can, but this channel might not be for you, right? Because we're looking at long-term trades with the highest probability of really big wins, which means a lot of time is spent watching and waiting. That's the game that we're playing. So if all of that said and done, if you've made it this far into this video and you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification, and drop us a like. Now, if you're an existing subscriber, I definitely appreciate you. I thank you for coming over. Okay, but there's one thing that I noticed that you guys don't do. You don't post your comments. But what it is I want from you guys more than anything is I want you lot to engage with me. Okay, post your comments, post your thoughts, post these things in there. Don't keep your concepts to yourself. I'm sharing. Share with me as well. Share with me your idea. Share why you think the idea that I've dropped is good. Share with me why you think the idea that I've dropped is bad. Share with me why you think you're indifferent to the ideas that I've just dropped. Share with me just to say, hey, how you doing? How you enjoying London? Is the weather better today than it was yesterday? You know, you could do these cool things, but I just want you to share something with me, all right? So just share with me, get on there, engage, right? And with all of that said and done, I will see all of you lovely people again on the next one.